Hi, this is Autumn Payne, and I'm here with Stephen Walker. He's a Buddhist teacher and a therapist at Middle Way Health. And he has a wonderful perspective that combines both Eastern and Western psychology. And we are here to talk about mental health. This is I don't know how many interviews we've done. We've done many, but we thank you for coming and talking with us about mental health today. Welcome.
Thank you. We should have a book by now.
I know. I think we
We're
do. We
close.
should.
Yeah, we're close.
Yes. So we do keep these short. And if anybody has questions that they want to send us, then feel free to send them to me in my email and I will pass them along. So today I wanted to talk about the topic of what's called right livelihood. And this is a subject that I've heard this expression in the Buddhist community, but I don't hear that said exactly like that outside of that community, but I still think it applies to all of us. So I wanted to ask you, what is right livelihood exactly, and why is it important?
That's huge. Yes.
Okay.
Maybe it's best to look at it from kind of a little bit classic Buddhist perspective, and
Yeah,
then
let's start that.
a broader thing. So it's part of what's called the Eightfold Path of Buddha Dharma, and it's interesting because a lot of spiritual traditions do talk about livelihood and behavior and society. So it's like that, but the Buddha had certain very fixed ideas about what was right livelihood. Um, he he didn't like. He said, well, for his students that were householders, he said, I'd really prefer if you didn't, um, you know, sell alcohol or drugs, um, or I guess run a bar. I prefer that you didn't, um, deal in guns or weapons. Um,
Hmm.
I, but overall, his right livelihood piece was he didn't accept the caste system at the time.
Oh, interesting.
So that's a huge, change. So there, there's this little scholarly. So there are many congruent things about, of course, what we know of now as Hinduism and Buddhism. Using they both do yoga, use a lot of the same terminology and a lot of the same practices. Um, and people tend to argue sometimes theology and think that's the big difference. But from the Buddhist point of view, the big difference was not accepting the caste system,
Hmm.
which he didn't see as right livelihood. He felt everybody had, um, uh, in a sense, the same capacity, and that there wasn't destiny, or it didn't make sense to say and to stratify society. So the big right livelihood thing wasn't just against certain occupations, but not trying not to just conform or just organize your life around staying within your caste system. So in the monastic community, he accepted anybody that he thought would be a good practitioner, and people were accepted. If they said they wanted to study, and um, the only hierarchy was actually the hierarchy of time.
Hmm.
So if someone was ordained ahead of you, they were your elder ahead of you in time, even if that person was a Brahmin and you were a nobody. So,
Hmm.
or if you were a nobody and you were ahead of a Brahmin, you were a senior to the Brahmin, which would totally go against um, the rules of the time. And of course, that allowed Buddhism to spread um, beyond India, right? Because it didn't make sense in China or other parts. So that kind of open-mindedness uh, to society is a big part of right livelihood. And then not doing, of course, not trying to have a livelihood that takes advantage of others in general too. But he saw the caste system as taking advantage of others. So that's a big part of American society because, like it a lot, we are a caste society. So
Ooh.
um, it's a big piece that we don't like to talk about. We're a plutocracy. It all depends upon how much money you make, whether you can have access to health services and access to education and jobs, and of course even access to meditation and yoga. Right? Um,
Yeah.
retreats are expensive, um, and mental health is expensive too. So that's one reason why I've created a nonprofit called the Middle Way Health Foundation, which is separate from my private practice, which is for profit. Um, but the foundation is willing to see people free of charge for a limited period of time, or maybe even longer. Um, and I think that's totally cool. So free of charge, like we'll talk to you for
Mm-hmm.
50 minutes and meet with you and help you, and we won't be charging you $200. So that's my attempt to kind of break through the caste system a little bit with mental health and to try to broaden out that way.
That's interesting because I was thinking right livelihood, it's a way of basically earning your money in an ethical way, right? But you're taking it a step further. It's like very specifically, making sure that we're not feeding into the caste system, modern day caste system.
It's hard not to. You see, that's the thing is, we're um, so in psychotherapy, uh, I do accept insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in general, insurance companies um, would say, uh, and maybe some insurance executives are listening. It's not right livelihood, because people's cases are managed, and therapists are actually paid less than market value, and all kinds of reasons where people are denied services based on, you know, um, the insured's profit motive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I do have to, so I'm in a glass house too. I'm part of a corrupt system in a way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and, I have my karmic stuff as a nice privileged white guy from the suburbs, right? I don't deny it. And I've had a lot of opportunities. But to do right livelihood, I think we can't just be morally correct in a way that, like, well, I recycle and I don't cheat anybody, or, well, I'm not, selling guns. I think that'd be a very narrow definition. Plus, I mean, I know a lot of restaurant owners, and they're serving alcohol or stuff, I mean, so, and there's a really nice dispensary just, across the street here. So I'm trying to look at it in the broad way. Are we doing something that's progressive? And another way is that, are we doing a lifestyle that enables us to develop ourselves internally? So right
Mm-hmm.
livelihood also means that you're not um, spending all your time at work. So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people, particularly in the health professions, people working in hospitals, uh, overwork, right? So they're helping, so they say, I'm doing right livelihood and I'm changing the system. But they're exhausted and they're burned out, and they don't have time for their own therapy. They don't have time for yoga, meditation, or exercise. So that's not right livelihood,
Hmm.
because
Wow.
you are doing something beneficial, and
Mm-hmm.
you're even maybe pro bono or something, but it's not supporting your and not supporting others vitality, and it's not sustainable.
Interesting. I didn't know we were bringing self-care into this, but that
Yeah,
makes
you
a
got to
lot of
have it.
sense. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's not right livelihood if you're not also taking
No,
care of
exactly.
yourself. Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
it's right livelihood is a corrective to people that get on a kind of martyr complex or workaholic
Mm,
that, say, well, I can't stop bailing, No, you have to have a balanced lifestyle. And
mhm.
it's an outreach lifestyle, really, as the core of it, rather than I'm just tending my own garden, and my own garden doesn't have any weeds, so I'm yeah. So it's meant to. Where I love it, it's kind of a challenge, actually.
It is.
Yeah.
So here's a challenging question for you. If somebody, they're interested in right livelihood and they're working for a company and they're doing something that just isn't right with that company ethically, but yet they feel if they leave or if they speak up that they're going to lose their job, they can't make their money. Like what's some advice for a person in a situation like that?
Usually I try to get people to leave the job.
Mm,
Honestly, lots of
wow.
there are other possibilities, but lots of times people don't leave bad jobs because they feel if they leave, the assholes win. It happens a lot in workers' comp where people have been injured and they really need to do something else, but they don't feel they've been treated fairly. So they kind of stay in the fight or even try to return to show the bosses or show the owners that they were wrong. But at the same time, they're injuring themselves again. So that's not right livelihood in my point of view.
Mm,
I get it when people have to stay and do things that they are in ethical and emotional conflict with, and
mm.
a lot of times we can um, make some accommodations internally also, but there's a limit to that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
There's a limit. So um, I've left a couple of jobs here in Sacramento in the mental health field where I feel like my license is not only I didn't feel good about it, but I felt like my license is at risk.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm not, so, but I've been in fortunate situations where I've been able to make some moves, but not without sacrifices.
Or
So I'm
sometimes
not,
you might need to like plan ahead, right? Maybe, okay, you don't have to quit that day. Maybe you can
yeah, I like people
plan your transition.
I like people to be strategic.
Yeah, be
I'm
strategic
not
with it.
saying
Yeah.
I've made all great ethical decisions, but when someone's inner world dies or their soul dies or something,
Mm,
and they're really not doing something that fits for them, no amount of money or safety can make up for
thank you. That's an important statement.
it. Yeah,
A lot of us need to hear.
yeah.
Yeah.
They won't be sleeping well. You'll have all kinds of other, kind of injuries and illnesses that come up because you're in deep conflict with yourself.
Deep conflict. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to end on that statement because it's very strong.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for joining us again. We'll
Next
see you
time.
next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Ciao. Bye.